Does your kitchen feel dark and boring? I'll show you how to install renter-friendly and affordable under-cabinet lighting that looks completely professional, or at least I think so. I'll let you be the judge. But here's the catch. You won't notice any wires. Stick around and I'll show you the clever tricks I use to hide them and tackle a few challenges along the way. Let's dive in and transform your kitchen. These are the lights you'll need. I had to buy 2 sets, one 3-pack and one 6-pack. Here's everything that comes with it. They're pretty generous with all the connecting wires and the small connectors. I did have to buy a Y connector and a couple adapters, as you'll see later on in the video. Let's start off by installing the lights above the coffee bar. I'll need 4 light bars here, and we'll use 5 light bars on the microwave side. The inner connector slides easily in, which I like not having the extra wires in between. Just make sure they're pushed fully into the light. This is the cold white version if anyone was wondering. I'll have it all linked in the description. The connecting wire easily bridges the gap, and we'll plug the lights in behind the refrigerator. I'll control it remotely with the Govee smart plug. I like being able to automate it or turn it off from the app. It is Wi-Fi, so you can turn it off all the way from Europe if you want. Here's our 4 light bars, and it's probably a good time that we test it before we actually install them. Let there be light. I was honestly surprised by how bright these are. I'm not mad about it. If you've been cooking in the dark lately, you might need your sunglasses. Nah, just kidding. They are dimmable. The different light positions will change how it looks. This will come down to your personal preference. Side note, if you like kitchen and home gadgets, consider subscribing. My hope here is just to demonstrate so we can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. Here's more towards the front. Now we're getting closer to the middle of the cabinet. And now finally we're getting towards the back. It really does change how it looks. That's why it's important to take some time to figure that out where you want it best. For me, I like it right here. They do give you some optional hardware that you can mount and clip these on, and they are magnetic, which is pretty neat. Or you could secure it with a screw if the wood's thick enough. I'm going to measure where I want my light, mark it with blue tape, so that way it all lines up straight. I decided I want my light 7 inches from the back, because that seemed to be perfect. Now go ahead and add the double-sided stick adhesive if that's the way you want to install it. That's how I'm doing it at least. The adhesive seems to be the most secure and the least invasive. I am a renter, so that's a plus. Let's go ahead and get this lined up on the tape. And then once I'm happy with that, then I'll secure it to the bottom. Give it some good firm pressure to secure it. And I don't think that's going anywhere. Well, at least until I move out. Or the next hurricane. Let's go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side. Little quick swipe underneath and then we'll be done. Let's go ahead and plug in our connector and connect them both. And then we'll go ahead and hide the cable. This is how I decided to hide mine. I just stuck the wires right in between the cabinets. To power the lights, this is how I routed it. I went up the cabinet beside the fridge and placed the power switch right above the fridge under the cabinet. You can use this to turn it on, off, dim, or brighten. Here's the light plugged into the outlet behind the fridge using the Govee smart plug. Now here's the moment of truth. Boom, baby. Doesn't that look so much better? And no wires. Now, the more challenging side. I went ahead and placed the blue painter's tape so I know where to put the lights. Just like the other cabinet. Now, the hard part about all of this is trying to navigate how to wire it. I spent a few hours trying to figure this one out. This is also where I had to order a few extra wires, one being a Y splitter, and a few unexpected wires when I ran into some problems, which we'll get to here in a second. The other big challenge was connecting the 2 zones between the microwave. Just like before, I put the adhesive on the lights. I laid these out so I know exactly where I want them. And then just line it up with the painter's tape. It takes all the guesswork out. As you can see, it's super easy. If this video has been helpful so far, consider hitting the like button. Now this is where I ran into some problems, and I did not account for this. With the connectors that came with the lights, it wouldn't fit. I figured I was going to need a 90-degree connector. To Amazon, depending on your situation, you might not need these. This is what I found. I will say my options were pretty limited. The cable diameter was thicker than I wanted, and they didn't have white. I did paint it white to help blend it in with the cabinets, but it could have looked better. Let's go ahead and get these connected and see if it will fit. And perfect. Got about a 1/2 inch on each side. Here you can see the Y connector coming down between the cabinets where we plugged it in. Exhibit A. Having this gap in the cabinet made it super helpful. I was able to power the lights above the microwave. I also used the Govee smart plug here. The main power route's above. Note, you don't see the wires when the door's closed. And over and on top of the cabinets, and then finally down through the gap. Here you can see how they fit through the gap. The other issue I had to solve was how do you get the power over to the other side of the cabinet. I thought I was going to route it underneath the microwave, but that looked tacky. So there had to be another way. And here's how I did it. Side note, my paint job could have been better. but I was able to fit the wires between the microwave and the cabinet. I worked the wires in through the front into the gap. It did help to loosen the screws on the microwave just slightly. If you have to do this, be very careful. And now you can see how I routed the cables above the microwave. I was able to have it pop back out because we had to make room for the connector. You can see how it wouldn't fit. Now watch the wires disappear. You can't even tell. I carefully maneuvered the other wire down in between the cabinet and the microwave on the right side, and then ran it down the cabinet. That way we can connect our light. You can see how it popped out here on the bottom. I put it towards the back because it was less visible. And this is how I routed it underneath to the light and connected it.